What is going on, everybody? So today I wanted to take a look at Royal Blood OP10. It's been out about 2 months at this point, so I just want to take a look at the booster box, some of the top cards in the set, and give my opinion on where I think the set is going to go in the future. And you can probably tell my opinion just by looking at the thumbnail. And we're also going to talk a little bit about EBO1 because there's some interesting things going on there. But we'll start with Royal Blood. The booster box is sub $100 right now. I believe the only other booster box sub $100 is 2 Legends still. Nothing too crazy. You do have the odd sale in the 3 digits, but most sales are still in that 97, 98-ish dollar range. When we look at the top cards, the Trafalgar Law is the most expensive card. It's the manga. But even this is sub $400, which is pretty bad for a manga card, down there with like the Sabo and the Soga King and a couple other of the mangas. And most recent sales are actually closer to like $380-ish over the past week. So again, nothing crazy here. I prefer the Law from OPO5. And this card's kind of, it's still cool, but it's nothing crazy. So it's not surprising to me that it is quite cheap. There's also still a lot of Royal Blood out there. There are a lot of these cards floating around. People are ripping the set because it is fairly inexpensive. So if you do want to rip some cards, it's probably one of the better sets to do it with right now. The thing that I'll give Royal Blood is that I am a big fan of the special rares in the set. The manga, but some of these cards, pretty decent. The Usohachi, not one of my favorites, but it is the second most expensive card in the set right now, I believe. And I believe this card is also in the meta, and that's why it's quite expensive. But even still, put that aside, the artwork's great. And again, it's not a super popular character, at least to my knowledge and opinion. I think, your Luffy's, your Nami, your Sanji, cards like that are going to be much more popular to collectors. But it's still a decent artwork, so it's not surprising to me that there is some value there. Now, a card that's probably going to have more collector value in the future is going to be this Whitebeard special rare. I think this is a great artwork. This is definitely my favorite card from the set. And I'm not sure if this is a meta card, but it's sitting over $130 right now. Most recent sales are right there at about $130. And, even when this rotates out in a couple years, I would not be surprised if this card has a decent amount of value there. Again, it's not a top tier character, but maybe it's like an A tier or a B tier type of card. And I do think a lot of these special rares are going to continue to drop over the next 6 to 12 months, just because there are still a lot of the booster boxes out there. Hobbiesville has a ton of them. Other game stores in Canada, the US, even Europe and Australia, there's a lot of this floating around. So I expect that the price is going to stay low. People are going to be opening the box because it's cheaper. We're going to see more of these cards come to market. And eventually we will see these cards bottom out. And that's probably going to be a decent time to buy up some of these, not just for your collection, but also for investment purposes. Now, another one of my favorite cards from the set is the Sanji special rare. I really like this card. I like Sanji as a character in the anime as well. I haven't read the manga, so, don't at me there. But this card has climbed over the past couple months. It was down to around $70 at the start of May. And then over the past 3 weeks or so, it's up now over $100. And most recent sales are actually about $110, $115. I believe there's some meta relevance to this card as well. But in the future, Sanji, popular character. It's also a great artwork. I really do enjoy this card. I would not be surprised if this in the future, down the line, is still over $100 at one point. That said, it could also end up being like a $20 or $30 card, just depending on how much Royal Blood hits the market and where demand is at. But either way, it's a decent card. I personally really like the artwork. An artwork that I found interesting that a lot of people don't like is this Divine Departure. I know it's an event card. These types of cards aren't going to be for everyone, but I do imagine in the future there are going to be some collectors that, one, not only just want to do master sets, but also just like the event cards, or maybe they'll just collect only event cards. So this will have some value in the future. Again, like the Sanji, like the Whitebeard, I think a lot of these cards are going to continue to fall over the next 6 to 12 months, just as more supply of these cards hits the market. Another card in the set is the Charlotte Flampy, and this card is nothing too crazy, but it is one of the more expensive ones. It's a decent artwork, whatever, not really crazy in terms of the characters in it or the artwork itself. Probably not something that's going to be on a lot of people's radar. Now, a card that might be higher up on a lot of people's radar is going to be the Charlotte Pudding. This card, I believe, is in the meta right now, just based on the price increase of it, up 5,362%. Maybe this isn't accurate these first few days here. Either way, this is settling in that like mid 30-ish range. You probably have a couple sales like this over $40, a lot near that 37, 38 range though. Waifu card, decent artwork as well. These are the types of cards that when I look at One Piece, I think it's really good that there's at least a few of these in every set. I think it's something that adds to the depth outside of the meta relevance of cards that people in the future will want to collect and chase when they're opening boxes. Another card in this set is this U-Rogue. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I haven't met this character yet. I'm only at like, what, episode 70 or 80 of the anime. Either way though, it's a decent looking artwork, I guess. Like nothing too crazy. Maybe there's some lore that I just don't understand that I'm not seeing in the card or understanding in the card. This is still around $30-ish, up 1,600% since launch. So I imagine there's probably some meta relevance to this as well. Cards like this in the future, I kind of look at a card like this, not a super popular character in the anime. Artwork's decent, I guess. Like these are the types of cards that I would compare to maybe like a lower tier illustration rare in Pokemon, something that's going to be in that like $5 to $10 range, depending on which Pokemon it is, what the artwork looks like. Something that just adds a little bit of depth to a set. We have a couple more here that I decided to bring up. One is the Smoker Parallel, or the alternate art, whatever you want to call it. Waifu card, I guess. This is dropped at release. It was around $50-ish. It's now about $20. And I think most recent sales are still in that range, maybe closer to 23, 24. Whatever. Again, it's a card that adds a little bit of depth to a set, but it's nothing crazy. We also have the Ace. This is the treasure rare for Royal Blood, sitting around $18, $19. I think most recent sales are a bit lower in that 16, 17, 14-ish range. So nothing too crazy there, but hey, it's Ace, so it's going to have a little bit of value. And then the final card is just, I believe, the rare, or no, secret rare Trafalgar Law, and this is only about $13. Nothing too crazy here. You have recent sales even as low as like $11, $10.50. So these are some of the top cards in the set. Nothing super crazy, nothing to get super excited about. Do I think Royal Blood is going to be a good investment over the next year? If you've watched a lot of my videos, you would know I think this is just dead money. If you're in the spreadsheet, you would know that there's a lot of this on the secondary market, and it's not selling at a great rate. It's selling actually, compared to a lot of the other boxes at a decent rate. But overall, there's just, over 100 days, maybe closer to 200 days of supply left for this box before a 20% leg up. So I don't think this is going to be a decent investment this year. Maybe next year as supply dwindles, it might be something you consider buying. Honestly, if you buy a case or whatever very cheap, like 70, 80-ish dollars, I don't think you can go wrong with that. I think there's basically zero downside at that point, but I also would not be expecting to see a very large return buying Royal Blood right now. Now, one set that's interesting is EBO1. I just want to touch on this quickly. The box is back up to around $315, nothing too crazy there. We saw a decent amount of sales of the box during Mayhem on the 16th. Lots of sales in that like 317, some in the 313 range. But one card in the set is Bon Clay, Mr. 2. I believe this is going to be meta because of a Luffy card that's coming in a starter deck. So this thing's jumped up from around $145 to $155. This is the alternate version, and most recent sales up in the 170s, even up to $180 from today. And the non-alternate art version is still quite expensive, around $75. And most recent sales are right there at $70-ish from today. You also have a couple down here, 52, 50, whatever, but a lot of sales in that 65 to 70 range. And even yesterday, you had sales closer to $80. So I think this bump is coming because of a Luffy card, and it's going to be kind of a combination that you can use in your deck. But I figured I would just throw that in here because I did see that on Reddit. But the point of this video was to talk about Royal Blood, which again, it's got some decent cards, some okay ones that I personally like that I think collectors in the future will want, but it doesn't have a great manga card, and also there's just so much of it out there right now. It's kind of dead money. I would not be buying Royal Blood right now. Even if I had a gun to my head, I would probably just buy Digimon instead. Now with that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you are shopping on eBay, TCG Player, Hobbiesville, Cardboard Hero, I have affiliate links down below. They're free and easy to use. I get a small kickback, so it supports me in continuing to make these free videos for you guys. Also, I have a link to the spreadsheet in the description as well at the top of it if you are looking to get more serious about investing in Pokemon and One Piece. And I also have consultation calls. I'm doing a couple of them this week, so I'm really excited about that. If you guys want more one-on-one focus, trying to set up an eBay store and, you know, build out investing in TCGs into a business, I figure I can do a pretty decent job at helping you guys with that. So with all that said, again, thank you so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.